Woo, baby, we're here. It is time for another episode of the First Base Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Mathis, and I've got a lot to say today. I'm going to try my best not to be a little vulnerable ball baby, but I'm going to get real with you guys on what's been happening thus far through my 2024. I feel like social media, especially people that are on social media, like me, for work and my job and everything like that, you guys just see all the highlights, the good, the happy. Everything looks so glamorous, and really behind the scenes of what's going on in my life, everything might not always be sunshine and rainbows like everybody thinks. So I'm going to get real with you guys, talk to you a little bit about what's been going on in my 2024. And I also, with that, thought we'd move into guessing what time it is. Almost NFL football season 2024. So at the end of the episode, I want to give you guys a few NFL 2024 seasons futures bets that I am looking at right now. For this episode of the pod, I am actually shooting this in my childhood bedroom. And for the most part, my room looks relatively the same. Although right now, the walls are like red and gray. My parents painted them as I got older when I was in high school. But fun little memory about this house. My parents actually built this when we were younger. So this is the house I grew up in my entire life. We broke ground. I picked up nails here. We were in the hole when they broke ground, and I remember putting putty along our whole baseboards, like growing up with our parents, like doing whatever we could to come help out at the house when we were building. So it was really fun. So this has been my childhood home my entire life. One of my best memories growing up, this was so cool. This room used to be a little different. When my sister and I were in middle school, we both wanted stripes all over our walls, painted stripes. I specifically wanted pink, like this chair that I'm sitting in, pink, yellow, and orange, and my sister wanted white, green, and pink. My mom, sister, and I went on a little girls trip, little vacation to Florida, and while we were gone, the entire time we were gone, my dad worked on painting my sister and I's rooms in vertical stripes, the entire rooms. It was so cool, and it was such a fun memory to come home to. We came home, we had no idea he was doing it either, and he surprised us that he painted the rooms. And my dad's like, yeah, I was up. He had to have been up doing this like all night long, because it would have taken him forever to paint both these rooms that way, but it looked amazing and it was so cool, and I loved having my room like that. Now, my childhood room's like a little bit different. My parents still have like the random pieces of pink furniture and stuff like that, but a little different. That was a fun memory of being in this house. And I love whenever I come home, just because if you guys have watched my sandwich episode, I'm from a small town in Illinois. I love being home because I get to spend time with my family, and everything just feels relaxed here. It's just like a small town. It's quiet. There's not a lot going on. It's much different than from where I live in Scottsdale. Let's get into 2024 as a year for me. T-Math Sports, Taylor Mathis, and what's been going on for me. To start out 2024, I always start out these episodes telling you guys a story of what happened for the week, but lately things have been a little wild for me in general with my life. So I was like, I feel like I just got to be real with the First Base listeners and tell them what's been going on throughout the year of 2024. Starting out, I would say the first couple months of 2024 were going pretty good, pretty well. I was working for Sports Grid at the time. I was loving my job. I got to cover the Super Bowl. I was, reporting. I was a betting analyst on air. Things were going really great in my career. I have my friends out in Arizona. My family was all doing really well. And I was in a 3-year relationship at the time that, to me, was, I guess, moving in the direction of possibly, talking about marriage, engagement, all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how I started my 2024. Life started to take a little bit of a turn in 2024, I would say in March, starting out with the fact that my contract was coming up with Sports Grid. I wasn't sure where my next stop was going to be on the map, and Sports Grid decided, and I decided with my contract that moving forward, I was not going to be continuing on with Sports Grid for the rest of the 2024 year, which I was pretty sad about, in all honesty, at the beginning of that all happening, just because I loved everybody I worked with at Sports Grid so much, and I got to do so many cool projects and work on so many cool things and go to so many great sporting events, and I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that I got there and all the on-air opportunities I got. It was a really awesome job and I had so much fun there. So I was sad when all of that came to an end with my contract. So that was kind of my first like little bump in the road that I guess I wasn't necessarily expecting when that came around at the beginning of April. But I've been really positive in the hopes, in the fact that I was like, I'll find something else, no doubt. I work really hard. I'm so passionate about what I do, and I'm very ambitious, and I'm like, I will stop at nothing to make my dreams happen. And I've been really positive through all of this with the change of a possible new job coming and what that's going to entail and everything. Like, I'm ready for it. I want it to happen bad. I want somebody to give me a chance and an opportunity. And since then, really, when it's come to the job front, I thought things would happen a little quicker than they have. Unfortunately, they haven't, but I'm really trying to be patient. And I know like the right thing is going to come for me at the right time and come my way. And in the meantime, I've just been creating so much my own content, which I'm sure if you guys follow me on social media, you know, my whiteboard wins, my walking bets, my top prop. I've got a couple other ideas in store that I'm also going to be starting. I'm just trying to think of anything I can do to keep myself diligent, keep myself sharp, camera ready. And I want to be able to show everybody that even in the meantime, if maybe I'm not traditionally working for a certain network or broadcasting company, I will still work my little booty off and do what I can to grow my social platforms and make opportunities happen for myself if nobody else is going to give them to me. So that's where I've been job-wise, which is kind of like a hard place to admit that it's not all sunshine and rainbows and glamorous and working in front of a camera and being on TV and doing all of this. So many people want to work in sports and see all of that, but you know, it doesn't always happen exactly how you want it to. And I've had moments like throughout these last, I guess now almost going on 4 months, where I've started to like second guess, and I hate this because I'm not going to ever second guess my dreams, but I've had these moments where I'm like, should I just get out of the industry? Like, this isn't like, I wasn't made for this. I don't know. Like, I haven't gotten the opportunities I've wanted, but then I quickly get inside that little T brain of mine and I'm like, T, that is not true. It will happen. It just may not happen exactly how you thought or on exact of your timeline, but it will happen. So I know that it will, but that's definitely been different for me. Just like financially wise, like in life, I'm doing all of this on my own now. I'm like creating my own schedule of when I'm going to put out content and what I'm doing. And I will say I've been growing my social platforms a lot bigger through this period of time where I've been doing all this content on my own, and I do really enjoy doing it. So then I get in my brain and I'm like, maybe I need to just start only doing my own content. It's just with that, at some point, you got to monetize some things. So anyway, that's kind of the first little bump in the road we hit in 2023, but that's okay. Then about 2 weeks after that, I went through, through this, I will say, still been going through a rough breakup through the last few months. My ex-significant other and I lived together, and we were together on and off, I would say, 3 years. And I don't want to go into the exact details of everything of our relationship because there were a lot of like mistakes on his end, on my end, on both ends, all of that kind of stuff. But it definitely, like, I don't want to say it threw me for a loop because maybe I did see it coming. Now when I look back on it a little bit, I'm like, it's a blessing, maybe in disguise. Like, maybe we just weren't each other's people. But it's a big change in life when you go from having that significant other in your life every single day, the person that you talk to, you tell everything to, you do everything with. I was so comfortable in my bubble of our little family with the two of us and our 2 dogs, and it was just my everyday life. And it came quickly to a close the day of the basketball national championship game, was when things really officially ended. And it's been a rough breakup, especially because this is the most I've actually been in quite a few serious relationships. I'm kind of a serial monogamist. I've been in like 4 serious relationships now, And he was my fourth, but definitely the most adult one that I've been at now 31 years old right now. Going through a breakup like that later in life, I guess I thought I was more on the path of like, marriage, and we're going to have kids and a house and all of this. And it just got ripped out from under me pretty quickly. And now I'm like, oh, okay, I'm back to, I haven't dated in 3 years and things are different and I'm not in my 20s anymore. And it's just, granted, they say 30s are the new 20s and I'm on board with that. 30s are the new 20s because I still feel like I got so much life to live, baby, and I'm still a spry 22 in my head. But it is a little bit different being 31 and having a significant adult romantic relationship. And for you, it feels like my whole world kind of crumbled and now I'm having to rebuild and pick up all these pieces of things that I never really expected were going to happen or I foreseen. Somebody correct me on the grammar with that. But that I didn't foresee happening at the time. I think that's right. I think it's foresee. I didn't foresee that happening at the time, and I am in a much better mental space from where I was at the time of the breakup, but getting real about my mental health and I don't feel like, gosh, another thing, some people do, but not that many people will share this kind of stuff. And as somebody who works in sports, for me, it's not really the norm for somebody in my area to, I guess, share all of this, but I majorly struggle a lot with depression and anxiety. I think I realized at 17, for the first time, I think I had my first major depressive episode. But at the time, I didn't really know that's what it was. Just because I didn't really know I was depressed. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't exactly know how to quantify it or what was happening to me. But I honestly, I felt like I could have cared less if I was here, realistically. And that was kind of the first time that I was like, oh, I don't think maybe my brain's supposed to think like that. I kind of let things linger on like that for a while. And then through college, after I got out of college, I was 23 at this point, living in Nebraska. I had a pretty big breakdown with where I was at in my career, and I had a serious relationship end at that point that ended in infidelity on his part. That was really hard to deal with, and I was going through a lot of stuff, and I had another really bad depressive episode, and that was the first time that I realized I was like, I think I might, my mom was like, I think that we need to get you into therapy. I'm a therapy girl. I've been going ever since. I rarely miss a week. It's really big and really important for me. It's not for everybody. I'm not out here preaching that everybody needs to go, but it helps me to talk to somebody, get my emotions out, get my feelings out, and somebody that's totally non-biased too. Can really hear out my side, understand my psyche, and my current therapist I have, she's the best. She's my best bud. I go in there and I'm like, let's get to going because I got lots to tell you this week. But she's great. I've had different therapists over the years, but I do actually struggle pretty bad with a lot of that stuff, even though I don't ever talk about any of it very much. But that was really the first time I noticed maybe I should go to therapy. And with going to therapy, quickly she diagnosed me with depression and anxiety, and I've been on medication for it for years now, ever since. And not that it makes me perfect, but it definitely helps. Definitely helps on a day-to-day basis. When I still have large traumatic life events happen, I tend to be somebody, I spiral a little bit, and as my mom says, I spiral more than probably a normal person would. Maybe my brain just reacts differently, I feel like, to traumatic events, and I get insanely sad. It's really hard for me to pull myself out of the depths like that. So when this breakup happened this time, I got into a rough spot. My parents, thankfully, they are the best, flew out, and it was the week I started this podcast too, was when everything happened, and I almost wasn't even going to start it that week, and I was going to push it back further. And my mom was really the one that convinced me to get going with this, because she was like, you're gonna let this breakup and that man take away everything that you've been working on right now, that you want to start doing for yourself and all these other things, and you're gonna push all that to the side for this. And it really snapped something in my brain to be like, come on, Taylor, get yourself together. Like, we can be sad, but at the same time, like, I've got so much going for me. Like, this isn't the end of my life. I gotta pull up those bootstraps and get moving, baby. So that's what I did. But it's been interesting, to say the least, as an adult, to be going through this and have such like a major life shift happen. And like I said, I don't want to get into the details. It's his and I's business of what went down, but it was a relationship that definitely had its kinks to it. There were things in it that, like, I don't even think at the start I was necessarily equipped with to handle, but I can't give up on people. So it was a significant part of my life for the last 3 years. So it's been different through the last 3 months to do things on my own. Like, even getting groceries is like so weird now that I go and do it by myself, and like having just Kook and I like sleeping in my bed and just all that. It's just like, it's a little bit lonelier for sure, and I'm figuring it out along the way. Anyway, if you are a person in your adult years, maybe like, and I mean, I know on a daily basis, like, people go through divorces and terrible breakups and all that kind of stuff, but if you're somebody else like me that's going through something like that, or has been going through something like that this year, I'm here for you, because I definitely understand what the feeling of heartbreak is like. It's honestly the world's worst feeling. I don't know if I could think of anything that hurts worse. And I'm somebody that, I'm totally human, and I definitely deal with having episodes like that myself, of being depressed and having anxiety, and I overthink things. So that was my second little. We went over hump 1, then we went over hump 2. I've been trying to pull myself together with those 2 things. And then these last couple of things that have just been happening, they're not as crazy, but just, well, they are, but they've just been recent too, over the last couple weeks. Part of the reason I didn't have last week, I'm so sorry, guys. We missed an episode of First Base, but I couldn't film the podcast because in my adult years, I don't think I've ever been more sick in my entire life. Well, as an adult, I should say, I don't think I've ever been more sick than I was the last 2 weeks. I'm going to tell the full story because honestly, it's pretty interesting of what happened. I feel like you guys might find this interesting. So I went floating on the Salt River with my friends, which is it's a beautiful river that's in the mountains in Arizona, and there's like wild horses and rapids, and it's so fun. You just kind of like drink, eat snacks, hang, and you float. And we went for our friend's birthday. It was his birthday, and it was a group of us, and we had such a good time. And Arizona's hot. It was 114 that day, baby, and I was out there on my tube just, relaxing it up. A lot of people also don't know this. I am not a big drinker. I don't drink like very much at all. I kind of never have been. I never drank I was never like, as people know if they've listened to the podcast, I was not a partier in high school. I didn't drink for the first time until I got to college. And I quickly learned in college though, even like I had my fun, I had my days, I had my nights where I went out and got wild and stuff, but my body does not react well to alcohol. I'm actually allergic to vodka, and I learned that at the age of 22 from an ER visit, but I'm allergic to vodka, and my body, I honestly think I'm almost allergic to all alcohol in a way. I don't react like a normal person does to drinking. If I have more than 2 drinks, I'm going to be throwing up and super sick the next day, and I'm not able to do much. So I pretty much leave myself like a 2-drink minimum if I'm going to drink. But Salt River Day, I didn't drink, period. I was the DD, and I drove everybody back. So I'm like very used to not drinking, which I'm glad I didn't drink, because so I'm on the Salt River, I'm not drinking, but we're floating, we're having a good time. We get done, I drive us home, and I had said to my best friend, Cher, that morning when we were leaving, I was like, my lymph nodes are so swollen. Like, they were like golf balls on my neck. And I had noticed it a few days before, but they weren't hurting. But that Saturday morning was the first morning I was like, oh, they like hurt really bad. And I even kind of contemplated like, should I float? But I really wanted to go, and I really wanted to be in the sun, and all my friends were going, and I was like, I want to spend time with my friends. I've been working so much lately. Like, I just want to spend time with my friends. So I went, which looking back, probably not the brightest idea on my part. When we got home, I said to her, I was like, well, I have to lay down. Obviously, just from being in the sun, I was already exhausted. But on top of that, I was like, I think I'm sick. Like, I said to her right away, I was like, I think I'm 100% sick. She was like, really? And I was like, yeah. I woke up from my nap, and I was like, where's our thermometer? And I go into her room, and she was like, yeah, it's in my bathroom. Go grab it. And I go, and I had a slight fever at the start. It was like 99.5. I was like, okay, I have a slight fever. I feel like I'm getting sick. So I was like, okay, I start drinking, vitamin C and Emergency. And I took some Tylenol, and I was like, okay, like, we're going to catch this early. Maybe it's just the onset of a cold, a 24-hour flu, something. It wasn't that. So the weekend goes by. I'm not feeling great. I still have a fever. And Monday rolls around, and I asked Sophie, who you guys have seen if you watched the pod, my best self. I was like, hey, could you call the doctor and make an appointment for me? I don't know if I explained to you guys, but Sophie's also my assistant. So I was like, can you call and make a doctor's appointment for me at the doctor? And she was like, yeah, they can get you in today. They said they can get you in like 3 hours. I was like, okay, great. So I get to my doctor, who I love. I'm just going to shout out to her, because when I tell you guys this story too, like, she is just, that is a woman, like, man, doing her job. And like, I just, as a patient, like, I'm so thankful for her, because I really don't even know if I would have gotten better if I wouldn't have had her. So I go into the office. We start with, COVID test, strep test, influenza, all come back negative right away. And she's like, we got to do blood work, because she was looking at my lymph nodes on my neck, and she's like, they're giant. I was like, yeah. And she's like, did your throat hurt? I'm like, no, my throat doesn't hurt at all. Oh, also, guys, I don't have tonsils. And to like also preface this, I kind of, throughout my entire life, unfortunately, I've like always had a lot of health issues. Like, I've had a lot of surgeries. I've had a lot of like random things that at like the age I am too, I'm like, how did I get this? How did this happen? Where do we get this from? I don't know. I feel like I'm a really healthy person too. Like, I work out all the time. I eat pretty healthy. Like, I struggle with like, I don't know. I just don't have maybe the greatest immune system. We test for all that. None of that comes back. I don't have tonsils. I don't have adenoids. I don't have a gallbladder. I think that's all the things I've removed. I've had a lot of surgeries. And so she's like looking in the back of my throat. She's like, it looks fine. She goes, I'm just concerned because they're so big here. And I was like, yeah, we do a bunch of blood tests. And she's like, okay, the results should be in tomorrow. Next day rolls around, and I'm still super fatigued. I still have a fever. And I'm like, geez, like, what is going on? And the results come back, and I was napping because I was so tired. My body was so exhausted. I could barely stay awake. And the only way that my phone will ring is if my mom, my sister, or my dad like calls me. Otherwise, my phone's always on silent. But I have them on emergency, so it always rings through. So I'm napping, and my phone rings, and I'm like, oh, and I answer it, and it's my mom. And she's like, you have strep B. And I was like, what? And I go, how do you even know this? And she's like, your doctor called. She's like, you were sleeping. She called me, because my mom's on HIPAA for me. She's like, you have strep B. Tells my mom I have strep B. So I'm like, oh my God. And she goes, they called you in a antibiotic. I'm allergic to penicillin and amoxicillin. So that's normally what you put somebody on for that. I'm allergic to both. So they were like, we're going to put you on a Z-Pack, which is azithromycin. I don't think I've ever been on a Z-Pack in my life, but I was like, okay, whatever. I go pick it up, and my doctor calls me, and she's like, Taylor, honey, you'll be good as new within 48 hours. She goes, honestly, you should be feeling good within like 36. So I'm like expecting I'm going to start feeling better. This is Wednesday. So I take all the meds Wednesday, not feeling that great. I wake up 4th of July, Thursday, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything anyway at this point. All of my friends were going out of town on trips, and I was at first supposed to go out of town on a trip as well. Did not happen. I knew I was going to end up being at home for the 4th, which was fine. I just like watched movies. I slept. I organized my Tupperware cabinet, and I was like feeling crappy and still had a fever, but I wasn't like the worst of the worst. But the second half of the day of the 4th of July, my mom calls me, and I was on the FaceTime with my parents like literally 24/7 because my mom and dad were like checking on me all the time. I have no family that lives in Arizona, and literally all my friends were gone. So I was pretty much just like hanging on my own. I was hanging on my own for days and days and days. So they were calling and checking in on me. And my mom that night, she's like, you look, and I go, worse, don't I? Like, I started getting so pale. I lost like a little bit of weight, which is not great for me either. You always think I'm like so tall and like this like broad girl. I'm like 5'1" and I weigh 100 pounds. Like, so my mom's like, you look terrible. And I was like, I look like a skeleton right now. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I kept telling her, I'm like, I feel worse. Like, I'm feeling worse. And my mom's like, oh no, this is not good. I'm just like, yeah, I know. I don't know what to do. I'm going to keep taking the Z-Pack. Next day rolls around, Friday, and I am like horrible. I woke up at like, I would wake up. This is the pattern that started, and this is how I started to know. I was like, I'm getting worse. Like, I'm not getting better. The pattern that started was I would be like ice cold freezing, like my body would be, and I had the chills unreal. I would go sit outside in the 115 degree weather in Arizona with a sweatshirt and sweatpants on, and I was not even sweating a drop. I had straight up chills. I was freezing. I was like sitting out there, but also I would sit out there in the sun, and like it was like I was like half dead because I could barely get myself to like, I couldn't stay awake. So I would be sitting out there in the sun, and I was just like, literally I felt like I was like half alive. And Kook was just like sitting out there with me on the porch, and I was like, I just want to feel better. Like, I was like, this has been going on a week now. Like, I want to feel better. And I was like, I feel like I'm getting worse. And I kind of was like starting to get a little freaked out because I would get really cold, do that pattern. Eventually I'd come back inside and I'd fall back asleep and take a nap. And then I'd end up sweating through like 5 shirts. Because my fever would get so high, and then it would break, and it was this repeated cycle of me going outside, being freezing, coming in, sweating my butt off, doing this over and over. And I was like, also through all this process, this is going to sound hilarious, but I couldn't walk, so I was crawling everywhere. I was afraid if I would walk, I was going to pass out, and I was afraid of hitting my head because I was home alone. So I was crawling everywhere. So my mom's like door dashing me groceries and things, but I couldn't get up to cook myself food. So I was like, it was a mess. So Friday was like that, and I'm still on the Z-Pack. And then Friday night rolls around, and my parents are like, you've been on the Z-Pack for 3 days. Like, this is not okay. Something is going on. So I called the doctor's office. They're not in for the holidays. There was a doctor on call. I talked to him, who's not my doctor, but he was like, I'm going to order you some other antibiotic. He didn't tell me the name of it. I'm on my way to get it because I get a text from the pharmacy. So I thought, oh, it's ready. I get a call from my pharmacist, which he like kind of knows me by now, which also shout out to my pharmacist. He's really great at his job. And also he like looks like he's my age, and I see him a lot, and he's kind of cute. But yeah, hey pharmacist. I don't know his name, but he's really nice. And God, hopefully he's not married. But he calls me, and he's like, hi, is this Taylor? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, don't come to the pharmacy. He goes, I can't get that prescription for 4 days. And I was like, oh my God, what? And he's like, yeah, and I've checked all the other pharmacies in Scottsdale, in the Valley. He's like, nobody has it. We can't get it for 4 days. It's a really hard antibiotic to get. So I like literally start crying on the phone with the pharmacist because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I told him, I'm like, I'm just so sick and I don't know what to do, because he was like, well, is that your doctor who prescribed it? And I explained to him, no, it was the doctor on call. And he was like, and he's like, I'm going to try to help. I'll figure out what I can do. Thank God for him too. In that moment, he told me I should drive to urgent care or the emergency room. And I was like, I'm going to go to urgent care. I do not want to go to the ER. I freaking hate the ER. And I was like, I don't want to go, even though my parents were urging me to go to the ER. I get to urgent care. I pull in. All of a sudden, my phone rings. It's a Scottsdale number. I answer it. It's my doctor. He got a hold of my doctor, and he called her, talked to her, told her the situation, that the other doctor sent in the antibiotic and that it wasn't going to come in time. She calls me and is like, your pharmacist is amazing. And she's like, don't worry. I'm going to make sure I'm on call the rest of the weekend to make sure you're okay. She's literally the best. Called me repeatedly throughout the weekend to check in on me, figure out what we should do, all of this stuff as this was all going on. She's like, don't go into urgent care. I've got you on clindamycin. And she's like, I've got you on the highest dose you can possibly take, and you're going to be taking it like 3 times a day. And I was like, okay. And she goes, this should kick it. Like, I promise. Like, she goes, let's get 3 doses of this in. Call me back and let's see where you are. And I was like, okay. Because we were really, at that point, she was like really concerned about my fevers. And that's what I was concerned about too, because like I was super dehydrated. At this point, we were worried that it possibly was moving into my bloodstream. She didn't want me to become septic. That was like the big point of the whole thing. So she's like, let's get 3 doses of this in, see what happens over the next day and a half. So I do that. Saturday rolls around and I am even worse. And it was so bad to the point I was sitting in my car with the heat on in the sun because I was trying to warm my body up so bad. I literally, I looked it up because I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing. My body temperature was at a 96.1, which technically I was like hitting hypothermia. And I like did not know what to do. And then eventually I would come back inside and my fever reached the highest point it got to, and it was almost up to 104. I talked to my doctor, and then at that point I talked to my parents, and she's like, you've got to go to the emergency room. She goes, I don't know what's going on. They were worried, again, it was moving into my bloodstream because the fevers were doing this so drastically. And I was like, this is crazy. At this point, I essentially had fevers going on for 8 days. So I was like, this is nuts. I'm really lucky, thankfully, because none of my friends were there. I had nobody to take me. And I was like, I'm not calling an ambulance. Like, we're not doing that. I'm driving myself. So my mom made me stay on the phone with her. But thankfully, there's an emergency room literally like 2 minutes from my house. So I drive to the emergency room. I get there. Thank goodness. They got me in right away because they saw how high my fever was, and it pushed me up. They were like, we got to get her back there to see what's going on. Thankfully, they decided to retest everything. They retested me for everything and decided to do blood work again. And they were like, your blood sugar levels are really low. So they come in and they're giving me all this stuff, and they're like making me drink all this stuff to like up my blood sugar levels. And then they're like, then they come back in, they're like, your potassium levels are really low. So then they start making me drink all this other crap. And they're like having me drink all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, you're extremely dehydrated, which I figured that because I was explaining to them like the fevers. I was trying so hard to drink and to eat, but like it was hard. So that's all going on. I'm like all hooked up and I'm laying there, and they're waiting we did a bunch of blood work, and they were like waiting for everything to come back. And at the end of the day, God bless, I was not septic, thank goodness, but they were concerned about my fevers as well. At that point, what they thought was going on is that part of the strep, my body had actually fought off, and now I was dealing with viral streptococcal pieces that they thought were living in like the back of my throat and chest area. And because it was viral, there's not much they could do. And they were like, you literally are just going to have to endure this, like get through it. And she kept telling me though, the ER doctor, she was like, I really think that you're on the back end though. She's like, I think you're going through the worst of the worst and you're on the back end. And I was like, okay. And she was like, if you are not better by Monday, you need to go back to your doctor. I was like, okay. She's like, I promise you, she goes, when you wake up Monday, I don't think you're going to have a fever. You're going to be good. So I was like, all right, like we're in for close to being done with this. So Sunday comes, I still have major fevers. It's still the exact same way. I'm still like miserable. I was in the ER for like 8 hours-ish. And I got home, which was nice, thank God. And then I could lay with Kook. And she had me stop taking the antibiotic also because she thought, because it was viral now, she's like, that antibiotic is killing all your good bacteria. So she put me on a probiotic then, which I'm still on now, which I honestly think I'm going to keep taking forever. I already take like a pre-probiotic. I might start taking this one now permanently because I also have a lot of stomach issues. But so we were like, she put me on that, and that Sunday I was terrible. And then I wake up Monday and I was like thinking in my head, like, I'm going to be good. I was not good. It was still the same thing. And I was like, this is not freaking happening. I call my parents, and then now people are going to know when I'm filming this right now. This is Sunday, so a week later from when I was like in the ER and everything. And we leave tomorrow to go to Spain. I leave tomorrow to go to Spain. And my parents were getting to the point where like, we're gonna have to cancel the trip. Like, if you don't get better within 48 hours, my mom's like, I don't know how you're gonna be able to walk around and like do things and stuff when you're like this. And I'm like so upset because this trip to Spain is like special to me because I planned it basically for my mom retiring, and it's a family trip with just my sister, my mom, my dad, and myself. And like, I've put a lot of work into it and the planning, and like, it's special to me, and I want it to work out. And it's just like heartbreaking if it was going to get canceled. I feel like this is like a big thing I wanted to like do for my mom, and memories and just all of that, something I want to do with my family. And so I was really upset that we were talking about having to cancel it. By the grace of God, by Wednesday, your girl was finally good. So I finally, since Wednesday, I've now been like fever free for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, 5 days. And I've been feeling like a lot better, but that was kind of crazy. I haven't been that sick as an adult in quite some time. I actually haven't gotten too sick. I would say the last time I got sick, I got COVID, but it wasn't that terrible when I got it. I think I got COVID in like 2021. But like prior to that, I haven't had a lot of like sickness over the last couple of years as an adult. So that one was kind of rough compared to, I will say though, in my early mid-20s, I had a lot of medical stuff go on. But over the last couple of years, it's been okay. And then my immune system, I guess, just decided to take a little on me the last couple weeks. But we're back, we're up, we're running. That definitely took a few days off my life, but we're here and we're ready to cheer. And that was kind of crazy. So that was Wednesday. I started to feel better, pack all my stuff up finally. And the plan was that I come here to Illinois for the weekend because I want to spend time with my niece and my noni and my papa and see like the rest of my family while I was here before we left for Spain tomorrow on Monday. I got here on Friday. I got off the plane, came. I was here with my family. They were so excited to see me too, especially my parents, since I've been so sick over the last couple weeks. And I'm so excited. We got everything. My mom and I like packed this weekend. We spent time with my niece and everything was going good. And then yesterday I wanted to go over and hang out with my noni and papa, and they live on the lake out here in Sandwich on Lake Holiday. And it's like one of my favorite places to go. And whenever I come home during the summer, like I want to go jump in the lake. So I wanted to go jump off the dock and swim for a little bit in the lake. So my noni and papa knew we were coming over, and we were getting ready to leave. And my dad and I had walked out to the garage, and my mom was inside, and I heard her like yell like to come back inside. And I walked in, and we have our two family dogs, Milo and Addie. And Addie is going to be 14 and Milo's 10. And they're both small dogs too. My entire life, I will say, I'm going to backtrack for a second. Like, I've always had pets. My parents have always been my parents are both huge animal lovers, and oh my God, like my sister and I are giant animal lovers too. And my parents were always awesome growing up because we always had dogs. We always had dogs growing up. My most prized possession I actually like have is my stuffed animal Classy, who is named after our real first dog we had, which was my mom's dog. She got at 16. She was a border collie named Classy. And we had to eventually put her down, but I was really little when that happened. And after that, I got to pick out Sam. He was my first puppy that I picked out for us. He was a golden retriever, and he was the best. And then we had Bailey, and she was a golden retriever also. And technically, by blood, her dad was Sam's brother, which was crazy. So they weren't like obviously from the same litter, but like from the same bloodline. So technically, Sam was Bailey's uncle, which was cool. And we got Bailey too. And then we got Addison, our little Addison Clark, who she's our little, we don't even know what she is, mix. She's tiny. She's like I can't even explain her, guys. She is like the best dog on the planet. And she is, I'm like, should I go grab her? Should I go get her? This is the queen bee, Addison Clark. Like, she is legit, I'm not kidding, the best dog on the planet. And she just is she's our baby. Like, Everybody's just obsessed with her. She's like the best, sweetest. Ugh. I could just eat her up. I love her so much. So we have Addie and Milo. So going back to that, we got Addie then. And then unfortunately we had to put Bailey and Sam like both down as they got older, which was so hard. I went with my parents to put Bailey down, like one of the hardest things ever. And then after we had Addie, we got Milo too, and he was our other little baby boy. And yesterday, unfortunately, we were getting ready to go to my Noni and Papa's, and my mom was like walking. We don't even really know what happened. It's like one of the most traumatic things ever. He just screeched, and he laid on his back, and when he screeched and he like laid on his back, and then my mom and I thought he has really bad anxiety and he's a really nervous dog, so we thought maybe he was having like an anxiety attack or something, and my mom and I like moved him over onto the carpet, and all of a sudden he just kind of like couldn't walk and like lost control of his limbs, and my dad was like sitting there with him, and we were like kind of trying to, there you go baby, I love you. We were just like sitting there, and my dad was laying there with Milo, and we were petting him, and like my dad's like, I think he's just having anxiety, it's okay, because he started shedding a lot of fur, and usually when dogs shed a lot of fur, something's wrong. They are nervous, have anxiety, they're scared, something. And we were sitting there, and I kept saying to him, he's breathing though, right? My dad's like, yeah, he's breathing. And then all of a sudden, Addie just like screamed, like, I don't know, she just made this screaming sound, and all of a sudden Milo's head just kind of like laid down to the side, and he just stopped breathing. So then my dad started to give him CPR, and we were trying to do what we could, and we grabbed him and we took him into the car, and we live in a small town in Illinois, and it's not by a lot of stuff. And the closest emergency vet's about 30 minutes away, but we got him in the car, and unfortunately before we could even get into the car, he already died. So yeah, we lost our family dog yesterday too, Milo. So now it's just Queen Bee Addie here with us. But Milo was like the best boy ever. He was like our bubby. He had a lot of anxiety his entire life. But like it was kind of the cutest thing ever, because whenever he would get like stressed out or like needed a moment away from people when there were people over, he would go hide under my mom and dad's dresser, and he would just like chill underneath there. And he gave the best little air kisses, as we would say, air bites. So he like loved to be like kissed on his little head and his cheek like that. And then when he would want to come back to give you a kiss, he was never good at like licking. So it would always be like this, like just a little air bite. He was just such a good boy. And just the way it happened was unfortunately really tragic and hard, and losing a pet is like losing a family member, especially for us. And like our pets are like, our dogs are like our babies. It's been rough around here lately, for me. And then another weird thing, I like woke up in the middle of the night last night because there was a friggin' earthquake. So that was crazy too. It's been rough and weird, and 2024 has maybe not been my best year yet, but you know, I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. And as weird as it is to say with what happened with Milo yesterday, I'm only home in Illinois probably max 20 days out of the year. And the odds of that to happen while I'm here, I'm at least grateful I got to spend my last day, his last day ever with him. And I took this little picture of the two of us, actually that morning before all that happened. So it's just been really hard. It's been weird. 2024 has been weird, and I truly believe like good things happen to good people, and the universe always works itself out. But yeah, I could use some good vibes being sent my way for sure. Things have just been not as sunshine and rainbows as maybe you guys think it is from what I put out on social media, but I thought I'd be a little vulnerable with you guys and get a little deep on what's truly been really going on in my life with everything. I am like doing my best not to cry throughout all of this because I don't want to be crying on the internet, y'all. So yeah, that's the story of 2024 thus far for Taylor, but it's going to get better. I know it's going to get better. I think the back half of this year for me, it's going to be stellar. Amazing things are going to happen. Big opportunities, happiness, love, all the works. I really hope that's the case. Yeah. So with that, we're going to dive into something that I'm super excited about that's coming up in 2024, and that's the NFL season. Let's get to my first bet of the 2024 NFL season that we have coming up ahead of us. Before I get into the bets, though, if you guys do not know, I know some of you guys are going to hate me for this, but I am a gigantic Dallas Cowboys fan. I was born and raised a Dallas Cowboys fan. People might be thinking, how are you born and raised Dallas Cowboys fan when you are from Illinois originally? Well, let me begin. So my mom's side of the family, they are Bears fans. They're big Chicago Bears fans. A lot of people in our family like the Bears. That's fine. My dad, though, grew up in Iowa all of his life, and he grew up with no professional team. And growing up, he only had a couple of TV channels, and the Cowboys were always on TV at the time because they are America's team. So he grew up watching Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irving, and Emmitt Smith is like my dad's all-time favorite. And basically, I was born and raised a Cowboys fan then. I always have been. He converted my mom to a Cowboys fan. He's actually converted many of my other family members that were Bears fans to Cowboys fans as well. So we have a lot of Cowboys fans within our family. And my dad really got my love for football started. And he has made me a Dallas Cowboys fan. And I must say, it's hurt so far throughout my lifetime because I've never got to witness the Cowboys being great. Every year we think it's our year. Do I think this year's our year? Of course I'm going to try to go in a little bit optimistic, but if I had to be real of who I thought was going to win the NFC East, I'd probably go with the Eagles. I hate that Jerry Jones sometimes is loyal to a fault. I really like Jerry Jones. Sorry, if you don't like Jerry Jones out there, that's on you. I like Jerry Jones. I do. He seems like a really nice guy. I also met him last year. He was really nice. I should say that too. He's very, very sweet, but I do feel like he's kind of loyal to a fault. He doesn't give up on his guys, and I personally think Mike McCarthy is not the answer at head coach. I hate saying that I don't really think Dak is the answer at quarterback either, just because the quarterback carousel that's existed through last season and I think heading into this season of the NFL as well has been really rough because a lot of rookies have not panned out, or a lot of big injuries have happened, like Aaron Rodgers last year with the Jets, or I guess guys haven't panned out like we thought that they would. So it's hard to say that I think that there's a better quarterback out there available for Dallas right now because I'm really not even sure, like, who, like, do we rebuild completely and, like, go draft a rookie quarterback and, like, do that with where we have draft position-wise right now, the past couple of years anyway, that wouldn't even have been a possibility. So you go out and trade for who? For Kirk Cousins? I don't want Kirk Cousins. I'd rather have Dak over Kirk. So, yeah, that's where I stand on Dak. Like, I don't love Dak. I don't necessarily think Dak is our answer just because what we've seen him do throughout the playoffs has been abysmal, zero, nothing, zilch for us. But I also don't know if the answer is currently out there on the QB market for us either. So anyway, that's my stance on the core. That's my stance on the Cowboys. I just had to fill you guys in that I am a big, gigantic Cowboys fan, but I love me the NFL. Just so we know. I know you guys all know I'm a big baseball girl, and I am, and I love the NBA too, but like the NFL, it holds a big chunk of my heart, and I'm so excited for football season to start, and I've already been looking around the league trying to find my little tidbits of areas where I think we could maybe make some money in that futures market. And to start, I'm going to look in the NFC South, which is a division that over the last few years and still continuing this year hasn't created a lot of competition. We haven't seen a lot of great teams come out of the NFC South whatsoever. Most people right now, I think, are high, of course, on the Atlanta Falcons to win that division, and they are the clear favorite right now on most books, sitting around minus 115 to win that division. And with that being said, of course, they're the clear favorite. They do have a great offense. You've got a great backfield. You've got Bijan Robinson, who I don't think was used correctly last year very well. That was thanks to Arthur Smith. They've got Tyler Algier, and now you've got a new veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins. And a lot of people are thinking because of that, because of the money they paid him, because now they've got experience, they've got a new coach, that they're going to be on top of the NFC South. But I'm leaning the opposite. I feel like there is some value on putting it on the Atlanta Falcons, putting some money on the Atlanta Falcons to miss the playoffs this year, and you can get that at plus 150 right now. Now, hear me out. I agree. You've got a very good backfield, and of course now you've got a veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins there in Atlanta. With that being said, though, is Kirk Cousins really the answer? Is Kirk Cousins really that good? Starting off, he is aging. He is an older quarterback within the league now at this point. He is a veteran, which can bring great things to a young locker room like the Atlanta Falcons have at this moment. But he's coming off of a major injury right now this year, guys. And the Michael Penix Jr. draft pick has me just scratching my head a little bit. Does Atlanta truly believe in Kirk Cousins as much as we thought they did? Because why are you drafting a quarterback that early when you just paid a bunch of money for a veteran quarterback? What's going on there? What's happening in Atlanta? I like what we're going to see probably out of that offense, but I think another big thing that we really need to know, and I'll die on this hill. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But we talk a lot about the quarterback position within the NFL. We talk about it more than anything else. We talk about being under center and what that means for a team. Defense still wins championships, kids. Let's look at the top three best odds right now to win the Super Bowl in 2025. You've got the Chiefs, you've got the 49ers, and you've got the Ravens. Now, those three teams last year, what did they have? They had top three defenses, baby, in several defensive categories. And at the end of the day, those were the teams that were closest or won a championship if you are Kansas City. At the end of the day, defense wins you championships, baby. And I'm not sure what I see developing there for Atlanta's defense at this point with what they've gone out and done. It looks like they're making a lot of moves to that offense. I'm not sure about the defense. I think the Buccaneers are sneaky. I think they're sneaky within the NFC South. You've seen Baker Mayfield throughout his, 10 years, a little bit of time now that he has been in the NFL. He has matured as a quarterback, and as much as some people love to hate on Baker Mayfield, I can't, because that boy, he's got that dog in him. He is aggressive, he wants to win, and he is competitive. And when I see a player like that that's willing to do anything to make that win happen out on the field, I've got to give them some credit. And I just think the Bucs are sneaky. They could potentially get something done, and they've got a good defense down there in Tampa. And what did I just say? What I think? Defense wins championships. I'm not saying the Bucs are winning the Super Bowl, but I am saying it could be worth it to maybe look at the Bucs to win the NFC South and maybe put some money on the Atlanta Falcons to not make the playoffs this season. That's going to be my first bet I'm looking at for 2024 NFL. Next bet, this is based on the fact that I like the odds of this for the most part. I am going to sprinkle some money on the Baltimore Ravens to win the Super Bowl this season. Now, the favorite right now is the Kansas City Chiefs to three-peat, which if they are able to accomplish that, they'll be the first NFL team in history to do so. I'm not banking on that. Next up in line behind them is, of course, the San Francisco 49ers. And then coming in at third right now, plus 1,000 on DraftKings. You can get the Baltimore Ravens to win the Super Bowl. Here's my thought process on this and why I would put the money in this place if I was going to put something on the Baltimore Ravens right now. I would stay away from their win total. It's 11.5. That just seems really high. 12 wins period, especially in their division as well, is going to be difficult when you're in a division with a lot of other very competitive teams, especially now you've got the Bengals coming back with a healthy Joe Burrow as well. I don't love that over on the total. I would stay clear of it, especially because the odds on it aren't great. The reason I would take the Super Bowl odds, just because of the way that their season went down last year, they're going to be hungry and ready for a vengeance. And as I just said, defense wins championships. The Baltimore Ravens had a great defense last year, and on top of that, they still have probably the best dual threat quarterback in the NFL currently in Lamar Jackson. He's one of my favorite players in all of the NFL, so I'm always hyped on Lamar Jackson. You've got Lamar Jackson, you've got a chance of winning the Super Bowl in my eyes. So I would sprinkle some money on the Baltimore Ravens to win the Super Bowl at this point, just because of the odds at where they're sitting. They would be my best bet. Putting money on Kansas City or the 49ers at this point, I guess, even though it is still in plus money, seems slightly, I don't want to say pointless, but I just like the value that you're getting there more on the Ravens, and that's why I would be willing to sprinkle some money on them at this point. Betting tip that I'm going to give you for betting week 1 of the NFL, and this is my own personal preference, and other bettors or people that work within the sports gambling space may have a different opinion than me, but do not start betting on week 1 NFL this early. To me, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. We haven't even started preseason, y'all. Like, if somebody big gets injured, those lines will move like crazy. And right now, what's the point on getting in something that early when you don't know what's going to happen? Unless you're a psychic and you're going to predict the future for me of what's going to happen over the next few months, I don't want to know. I mean, look at what happened to Aaron Rodgers right at the beginning of the season. I don't want to. I'm not putting my money on week 1 spreads yet until I have way more information and I've seen way more of these teams before they're actually taking the field for the real season. That's just my take. I think it's way too early to be placing odd bets on week 1 spreads. If you're really confident and want to do like some crazy money line parlay, go for it. I just don't think at this point it's worth it to put money on week 1 of the NFL. My last little bet that I'm going to give you guys, and I'm going to consider this my dark horse, my long shot bet, and it actually pains me to say this, being a Chicago native and also being a Cowboys fan, because they seem to get us every darn year. But my long shot bet is going to be for the Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl. Call me crazy, but I thoroughly believe in Jordan Love and his ability to develop as a quarterback within this league, and I like the pieces that he has surrounding him to get it done. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers may have started out weak last season and had it rough at the beginning, but they were working out the kinks, working out the quirks, and as things went on, we watched Jordan Love as a quarterback develop. His ratio, touchdowns to interceptions, 3-1 last season. If you are putting the ball in the air that much and you're able to create points, create a touchdown, a score off of that, you're going to win games, especially if you got a decent enough defense that's able to hold it for you on the other side. And Jordan Love, there's something, I don't know, there's something special about him, and there's something to say that I think that he sat behind Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and was able to develop a little bit before actually getting onto the field. I feel big things for them. They're a team similar to me that are like the Texans, obviously not quite as young as the Texans, but the Texans are getting a lot more hype, a lot more love because of what CJ Stroud was able to do within his rookie season, and now they've gone out. They've already had Tank Dell, but now gone out, you get Stephon Diggs, you've got more weapons for CJ Stroud, and I think the Texans are going to be great too, and that's exciting for an organization that really hasn't had a lot of hype behind them for a long time, so I'm sure that Texans fans are very excited. But I think we're sleeping a little bit on the Green Bay Packers. They're also a young team, and look at what they were able to do. I mean, they knocked the Cowboys out of the first round of the playoffs last year as underdogs, and as a Cowboys fan, I was just like, do this to me again. It was a catch with It was a catch. It was a catch. It was a catch. It was a catch with Des. It just brings me back. The Green Bay Packers, they just get me going. They get me going. But it was a catch. Anyway, so the Packers, with that being said, they knocked out the Cowboys. Sorry guys, I got distracted because of how much I get spooked by that stuff. But they knocked the Cowboys out in the first round of the playoffs, and rightfully deserved, because they looked like the better team on the field a million times over. Cowboys looked terrible. But then, I mean, they fought against the 49ers. If the Green Bay Packers would have won that game, would not have been surprised at all. And I probably would have rooted for them to win the whole thing. I love a good... I fall for a good underdog story every darn time. I just did it this weekend with UFC. Cortez fighting, main event. I put a little money on her money line just because of her storyline, y'all. I'm terrible about an underdog story. Give me a good underdog story and I'm going to put some money on it. Plus, she was from Phoenix. It was hard for me not to. Anyway, back to the Green Bay Packers. I think that what they have developed, what they're coming off of last season, and the way that they overachieved and saw success, I'm hoping that they can carry it into this year. I'm hoping, I guess, from a betting standpoint, that they can carry it into this year. And I think we're going to see some really big things out of Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers this season. I love Matt LaFleur too. If you're looking for a long shot bet for the Super Bowl, my pick is to go with the Green Bay Packers, because they might have some stinky cheese up there in Green Bay, but I think they're not going to be stinking this year. They're going to be pretty good. And with that, we are coming to the close on the 2024 NFL Futures Bets. That's just little part one, though. Throughout these episodes, as we head into the NFL season, I'll be sure to keep giving you guys some more things that I'm looking at, some things that I like as we're heading into football season. But let's get to our Taylor's topics for the week, and I'm going to give you guys a couple ins. And starting with, I got to start with family pets. After everything that happened with Milo this week, and I obviously already told the story, I'm dedicating, I guess, this episode to my little baby, my little boy. He's like the whole reason that I actually got part of the reason I got Kook and got a small boy Chihuahua dog. Having Milo was like my first, like, a little boy, and Kook, now thankfully I have my little Kook, but I just love Milo so much, and seeing how that happened, everything was just really sad. And if you're a parent out there and you're like so against getting your kids pets, please don't, because like having an animal and having like unconditional love from a pet is like, I don't know, unexplainable, and one of the best things that I feel like you can experience, because animals are just so innocent and full of joy, and they just want to make you happy, and they just deserve all the goodness in the world. So hopefully he's out on that Rainbow Bridge playing with Classy and Bailey and Sam, but gone too soon and too tragic of a way. It was just crazy. But that is my first in for the week, is family pets. My second in for the week is Sambas, baby. Now, Sambas over the last year and a half have been a fashion statement, especially for girls lately, when it's come to a fashion sneaker. And I've known that because, if y'all don't know, I'm like the content on my social media this next like week and a half that I'm gone in Spain, it will not be sports. We're going to be seeing outfits, honey. I love clothes. I love shopping. I love thrifting. I love putting outfits together. I've loved it since I was little. It's just like, I love clothes. Actually, growing up, when I was in high school, if I showed up and I was like not dressed to the nines, people would think I was sick all of the time, because I wore heels when I was like I was a sophomore in high school, strutting it, baby, in like 5-inch heels. Like, I did not care. And I'm still like that. I can wear whatever I want. I do not care. I love putting clothes together. But anyway, with that, Sambas are in because I finally got my first pair. And these babies are so cute. They're very neutral and they're going to go with a lot. And I got them to walk around in Spain. But I finally gave in and I bought myself a pair. Because I did give into the New Balances trend as well. And I got a pair of New Balances. Those are my most recent sneakers I purchased. And then I was like, this week, I was like, fine, we're going to get some Sambas. They'll go with a lot of outfits while I'm in Europe, and I've heard they're comfortable. So Adidas Sambas, y'all are in. I'm going to be strutting it on the streets of Barcelona in my sambas. Hola. My last in for the week, it's gonna be soccer, surprisingly. Now, it's not even really about the sport. I've gotta admit, I've tried, guys. I've been trying to watch soccer and I am bored. I don't get it. I can't, I don't know. It's like running around for 2 hours nonstop and nothing happens. After seeing what happened with Colombia, I wanna make sure I say that correctly, Colombia, and Argentina at Copa America and all that, I'm like, don't even get me started on that whole thing, but I'm like, what are we doing? It's soccer. It's soccer, people. It's not even that interesting. That's not why I'm really excited about soccer. I'm excited about soccer because Spain won the Euro final, and I'm excited because we leave tomorrow and they just won yesterday. We leave today. What do I mean? I leave for Spain today. What am I talking about? I totally messed that up. I leave for Spain 2 hours. Anyway, but I'm excited that Spain won the Euro Cup because we're going to be in Spain right now and it's probably going to be a party. It's going to be fun. And your girl, I love the salsa flamenco. I'm going to party in the streets of Barcelona and act like I'm a major soccer fan. I'm going to jam about the Euro final. They beat England. I did watch too. I watched the game. Like I said, I was bored throughout majority of it. I'm really trying. I've been really trying lately to watch sports that I necessarily didn't grow up with. I grew up with the classics, with football, baseball, basketball, and hockey, really, growing up here in the Chicagoland area. But my family also, really likes tennis, but I didn't pay as much attention to it growing up. But, I've been getting way more into tennis. I've been learning golf. I've been watching golf a lot more, trying to get into soccer, trying to broaden my horizons. Oh, and UFC too, but UFC, that's kind of been a thing for a year now. I've been way more into UFC. But I'm trying to get into I guess the more obscure sports or sports that I don't have as well of grasp and knowledge with, just to broaden my portfolio, understand more, be able to talk more sports with different fans and things like that. And I'm really struggling with soccer. I'm loving tennis. I'm loving tennis. I watched a lot of Wimbledon. I'm really mad at Taylor Fritz still right now. But I've been watching a lot of tennis, UFC, golf, and I'm I can get behind it all. Soccer, I'm truly struggling. It's the world sport, right? Why am I struggling so hard? Somebody help me. Somebody help me. How do I develop soccer love? With that, we have come to a close. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to this week's episode of First Base. If you're new here, please subscribe, give us a like, comment, write me feedback, whatever you want to do. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.